An entitled Kevin and Karen couple demand that I remove my prosthetic because they're disturbed by it and claim that it's inappropriate to have on in a children's hospital. And I've honestly never been more offended by somebody's remarks in my life. Here's what happened. So for a bit of background, I'm a 24-year-old male and I'm half deaf on my left side due to a birth defect. I also have a misshaped ear due to a combination of birth defects as well as because of surgeries to repair it. When I got a bit older, I started wearing a prosthetic ear on that side to cover it up. It wasn't perfect, but it looked better than what I originally had. Unfortunately though, these types of prosthetics don't last forever, and they have to be replaced every so often as the colors begin to fade and it tears around the edges. And this is one of those prosthetics that is removable. I was due for a new one and was just waiting on my insurance to approve it before the prosthetist was going to send it to me. So anyways, I was working in a pediatric emergency room at the time and had just received the order to perform an EKG on a roughly 8 to 10-year-old patient. When I walked into the room and began to introduce myself to the family, namely the mom and the dad and the patient, the mother looked up at me and made a gasping sound. I was taken aback and asked her what was wrong. She told me, "Your ear is really freaking me out. Is this supposed to be some kind of Halloween costume or something like that? It really seems inappropriate for a children's hospital." Now, mind you, it was only October 2nd or October 3rd, but I explained to her that I have a disability for which I have to wear a prosthetic. She then demanded and said to me, "You need to take it off because it's making me uncomfortable." After she said that, I politely declined because it's held on by medical glue and that is really not easy to take off. I proceeded to do my job and perform the EKG, but throughout the entire procedure, the father decided to repeatedly probe me for personal information. He would ask me things like, "Are you sure you're qualified to do this? How long did you go to school before this job?" And stuff like that. Now, I answered his questions, but could very obviously tell that he was insinuating that I was mentally disabled and that I shouldn't be working in this field. I finished the procedure as quickly as I could and then I left, not saying anything to the parents, but I did wish the child well. I gave the report to the nurse and asked her not to call me for this patient unless they absolutely needed to. I kept my mouth shut at the time, but in retrospect, I wish I had spoken up for myself more. Because honestly, some people just have no respect for those with disabilities. Wow, the mom and dad in that story were awful. Like seriously, why can't they just mind their own business? First and foremost, like who in their right mind would audibly gasp when they see something that doesn't look right? Like does she do that when she sees someone with like a fake leg or a fake arm? Like come on lady, you can't be that weird, can you? And the fact that she was trying to demand that this person take it off, like seriously, that medical glue is very strong. It's not gonna come off very easily, and it's probably gonna be hard if he just rips it off. Like why can't people just mind their own business and keep their comments to themselves? She really tried to sit there and be like, "Oh my gosh, this is bad for a children's hospital," and yet she's the only one who even complained about it in the first place. And then for the dad to try and sit there and be like, "Well, how long have you been doing this? Do you even know what you're doing?" Like honestly, what a dumb question. Especially with their kid just getting an EKG. It's not like this guy was performing surgery or something like that. Like calm down. But honestly, this is just so awful and I'm so sorry to the original poster for dealing with this. Because you know what? You worked hard to get through school to get in the position that you're in. And the last thing you need are a bunch of entitled parents telling you that you're not capable, all because of a disability. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for ruining a wedding by unexpectedly soiling myself? Here's what happened. So my friend Sarah was getting married and I was lucky enough to be in her wedding party. I wasn't the maid of honor, but I was one of the bridesmaids. She had an outdoor wedding that had limited bathroom availability. Obviously, because it was outdoors, she rented 4 very high quality porta potties that you might see at a sophisticated outdoors event like tennis or polo. There were 2 for women and 2 for men, and the wedding in total was about 200 people. Now, I should also mention that due to some health problems, I started taking a medication that has the possible side effect of going to the bathroom and doing a number 3, if you know what I mean. When you look up medicines which have a million side effects, you might tend to just think that, well, these medicines just have to say that you might get this. But it's one of those situations where either way, despite whatever side effects might come along, I still need to take the medication. Now, I didn't think to mention this to anyone for a number of reasons. For starters, the medicine side effects vary depending on what it is, so who knows what could happen. But also, how on earth would I explain this to her? Like, what am I actually gonna say to her before the wedding? Am I really gonna have to explain that I'm taking this medication and that it might have side effects in general? I mean, I've never struggled with IBS or anything like that in the past, so instead I just didn't say anything. So anyways, it's a little while before before the ceremony is about to start, and I'm pulled into a million directions helping out, and I start to feel a bit of a stomach ache. And then we all get shuffled up to the front without any warning. But I think to myself, whatever, I'm at the wedding. I can't go run out for some Tums, I mean, it'll be fine. Eventually, the music starts to play and everything is in place. All of the sudden, I feel a deep pain in my bowels. For 20 seconds, I'm just standing there thinking, do I really have to go? What do I do? Is this seriously happening? I was literally just trying to process the situation while remaining as composed as possible. But it didn't matter because in that very moment, it happened. Now, I'm not going to go into detail here because it was embarrassing and traumatizing, but needless to say, I definitely excused myself. And I think you have a good idea of what just happened. After dealing with the whole situation, I was there standing outside the bathroom, not sure what to do next. I had assumed the ceremony had continued to go on, but do I even go back? I mean, there's no way, right? They're in the middle of their vows, and here comes the girl who just went to the bathroom in her pants. So I waited a while as not to interrupt anything. Two of the other bridesmaids found me crying eventually and told me that Sarah was upset and said that I should leave. And so, in my shame, I did just that. Now, this happened over the weekend, and it's now Tuesday night. I did send an apology text to Sarah, but I haven't heard anything from her or anyone else in the wedding party. But honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? First and foremost, I don't think you're the jerk at all. This was a freak accident, and it's not something that you planned on. No one goes to a wedding or goes anywhere for that matter and plans on having that happen. So personally, I think the anger and the blame from the bride is being completely misplaced. Like, sure, there was some kind of interruption when it came to your wedding, but honestly, why would you not want to be like, hey, are you okay? Like, that's what I would do if I was in that situation. I would want to check up on my friend and make sure they're okay. And I like the fact that you decided to stay out and stay out of the ceremony. It really was for the best considering what just happened. Do they really want you lurking around the corner, coming back in, smelling awful and being covered in who knows what? Like, I think that would have made the situation a lot worse. Now, I think there is a side of this where you should have been more prepared and you should have taken the proper steps to be ready for that hour period when she was getting married, but I think overall this was very unpredictable. This has never happened before, and it's not like you did it on purpose. So I'm gonna say that you are not the jerk in this situation. But what do you think? Leave a comment. How would you react if you were in this situation? Let us know in the comments down below. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for getting upset after my mom misplaced and threw away my cosplay items? Here's what happened. So I am currently a first-year senior high school student, and I love cosplay in general. I promised my classmates that I would show them in person my favorite casual cosplay of a formal attire with many handcrafted accessories. By the day I prepared everything in my bag, my mom decided to clean my room, which is fair to an extent, it was a mess, and told me to leave it all to her. But here's the thing, I never gave her permission to touch anything from my bags filled with cosplay items. The next day, I checked my bag, only to find out that all of my cosplay items were completely missing. Specifically, a blue custom crafted flower brooch attached to a DIY cape that I attached to a vest and a blue armband I pinned together. I asked my mom if she misplaced it, and she then just told me to look around the house. But when I did, I found nothing. I asked her again, and despite the fact that I hate bothering people, she got irritated and said, "Stop going to the past and change your life." But like, excuse me, are you kidding? This is only a piece of cosplay that I personally crafted and cherished. What does my past have to do with any of this? She then goes on to explain about how my so-called counselors are saying that I should. But what the actual crap does the counselors have to do with my cosplay? I know I'm going through depression and anxiety, but what does it have to do with something that cheers me up and lets me cope with stress? Cosplay has been my most treasured hobby, and hearing that is just BS. This is also the third time she lost my cosplay items, and it's difficult to replicate something I just crafted out of a very specific artificial blue flower. It also was my pride and joy. The fact that she only treated it like a stain of the past and just wanted to throw it away so that I could change was honestly so offensive. What am I supposed to change here? This is who I am, and this is what makes me happy. It's not like what I'm doing is hurting anybody or anything like that. Not only that, she also misplaced the personally written letters by my best friend, which I always kept, by the way, because of how special of a friend he is. But she acts as if it's just some kind of garbage. The fact that she has the audacity to pretend that she even cares is honestly just so disgusting. Like, I literally placed them in a bag. Not just any bag, but my bag, which means that it's my possession. I never even gave her permission to rummage through my items. And then what? She used her role as a mother to make it valid? I mean, honestly, what do you guys think? Am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all. I don't know about you, but I could never do cosplay. And I'm not talking about dressing up in a costume that I rented from somebody. I'm talking about making the costume myself out of raw materials that I put together. That would be unbelievably difficult and I wouldn't know where to begin. I have friends who do cosplay themselves and they make their own items and they make their own gear and dresses and pants and all that stuff. And just from the process alone that they've described, it takes a lot of energy and a lot of time to do this correctly and to do it in such a way where it's not going to fall apart when you go to a convention or some kind of event. Like, this is something that you absolutely should and can take seriously. It's not just playing dress up. This is cosplay. There's a deeper meaning here and a personal connection to the piece that you're making. So when it comes to the original poster getting upset at their mom, I don't blame you for a second. She was completely out of line to go through your stuff like that and to throw away stuff that she's probably seeing you put together. Like, that is honestly so disrespectful and I'm so sorry you have to deal with that. And sure, you put it in your bag, but maybe it's time to put it in something a little bit more secure. Like, maybe there's a store you can go to get a chest or some kind of box that can be specifically labeled, hey, this is cosplay stuff, do not touch. And then let her know, hey, I'm gonna keep all my cosplay in this box. If you ever clean my room again in the future, don't go in this box. I wanna keep everything in there. And sure, I'm sure you're probably doing that already. You probably have explained this to her many times, but maybe doubling down and redoubling your efforts to protect the things that are important to you will hopefully get through your mother's thick skull that yes, this is important to you, and no, this is not the cause of my depression. If anything, like you described it, this brings you happiness. Like, this hobby is completely harmless and there's no reason you shouldn't be doing it. I mean, if I was a parent, I would definitely feel that way towards my kids doing anything. Oh, they're not hurting anybody and they're enjoying the activity they're doing? Yeah, go ahead and keep doing it. Like, it's totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So no, you are not the jerk in this situation. You didn't do anything wrong. Your mom is incredibly rude and unbelievably toxic for throwing your stuff away, and hopefully in the future that never happens again. My entitled mother demands that I do her special effects makeup for every single Halloween, all without properly paying me. And at this point, I'm so annoyed, and I now don't know what to do. So almost 5 to 6 years ago, I discovered my love and talent in special effects and Halloween makeup. This includes homemade latex wounds, airbrushing, the works. My mom's birthday happens to be October 31st, so it's her tradition to have me do her and my stepdad's makeup usually the weekend of or right before Halloween, and this depends on when the holiday falls in. And they want me to do this so that they can go to a really cool small tourist town that we all love for the day and walk around and take pictures. I have always agreed happily and enjoyed doing this little tradition, that is until a few years ago. They don't pay me, but they have bought me supplies before as a payment. I also get free labor on any car work because my stepdad is a mechanic. Now, last year for my mom's 50th birthday, we rented an Airbnb so that I could do all of her friends' makeup as well as my own and my wife's, which took me about 6 to 7 hours. Altogether, I did 7 people's makeup. Her friends paid me but did not pay me my hourly rate. And overall, I made about $30, but my hourly rate is $80 an hour. And yes, my mom does know this. Basically, she called it her birthday gift, and the money I did make was just tips from her friends because they wanted to give me something. We went to the tourist town and only stayed for a few hours while also having dinner and then walked around for a little bit. But everyone got tired really early into the night and went back to the Airbnb. So basically, I feel like I did 7 hours of work for only a few hours of fun. So that definitely really annoyed me. Last year, I also had to turn down a big Halloween party and also opportunities to do friends and some acquaintances makeup, all because of my mom's demands. Now, I say demands because it was implied, and I would get nothing but a tongue lashing if I didn't do this for her. And honestly, I was just really bummed about it. But it was my mom's 50th birthday, so I did want to spend it with her. This year early on, I decided I am not going to do it again. I decided I'm going to do my own Halloween party and do my friend's makeup and actually get paid for it for the first time in 6 years. This year, the parties will be happening on October 28th. My mom just texted me an Airbnb listing and asked if my wife and I wanted to join them again this year on the 28th. I told her that I most likely won't be going because I want an opportunity to go to my own Halloween party. She just replied by typing the letter K, which I know is her annoyed response for not getting her way. She acts petty and passive-aggressive like that every single time I don't do exactly what she wants me to do for her. I've never been able to set any healthy boundaries with my mom. It always needs to be her way, or else she's gonna get upset and annoyed, and will usually start messaging me walls of texts telling me that I really hurt her feelings, and that she doesn't understand why I do certain things. It honestly drives me absolutely insane. insane. Does anyone else deal with this? Like, how do you set boundaries that they finally respect? Also, should I feel obligated to give up my Halloween just because I get free labor from my stepdad? I am just worried that my mom might hold this over my head someday, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. First off, you are not being selfish or a jerk for deciding, you know what, I want to spend this Halloween getting paid for my work. That is not a selfish aspiration. That is you wanting to be properly financially compensated for your time. What you do is not easy, because clearly you're good at it, otherwise people wouldn't be asking you to do that for them. So in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk for wanting to set that boundary, for saying to your mom, listen, I want to do stuff on my own. I want to be able to make money this Halloween and not feel like I'm getting ripped off. Now, when it comes to having healthy boundaries, I think it just comes down to simply saying what you need. Like, we are all adults here. You're in your 30s and your mom is in her 50s. And I think trying to establish some kind of reasonable boundary when it comes to what you will and will not do is something that I think is completely normal. Everyone should be able to do that. And you know what? If your mom wants to hold it over your head just because you don't want to do something, and she wants to try and give you some kind of ultimatum of like, oh, help me with my Halloween decorations and my costume, or your stepdad's not going to help with your car. If she tries that, then just let her, because that kind of garbage is so childish, and there is no reason for you to have to put up with that for a second. So no, you are not the jerk here. You have every right to do whatever you want on Halloween, and if that means you can make some money in the process and actually give your time and effort to people who are going to appreciate it, then in my opinion, that is absolutely a good thing. My dad and stepmother, who treated me so horribly growing up, are now on the verge of being homeless, and despite calling me up, I'm refusing to help them out. Here's what happened. So my father and I have historically had a rocky relationship. My parents divorced when I was 5 years old, and he married the woman he cheated on my mother with. I was an only child, and she had 4 kids from a previous marriage. During my childhood years, I spent most of the allocated time dedicated to my father in the divorce with my paternal grandparents, and that was every 2 weeks and 42 days in the summer. They lived in a different state, and I cherished the time I had with them, and they would always go to bat for me. There was some tension caused early in my dad's new marriage due to my stepmom demanding that my grandparents go back to the store one Christmas and get equal amounts of gifts for all of her children, even taking some from me and gifting it to her youngest. I spent many times waiting on my mom's sofa, just waiting for my dad to pick me up, and he never would. I would later find out that he was on a family vacation with his new family. I could spend all day telling Cinderella stories, but I need to keep focus on this story. My grandparents picked up his slack. We spent summers learning how to make baskets, as well as gardening, camping, and other various different activities. Their home was like a second home to me. When I was 13 years old, I went to go live with my dad after some methodical brainwashing, and I then would rarely see my grandparents. My grandmother would call, and they would ignore it. It would hurt my heart to see it on caller ID, knowing they were just on the other line, but my dad and stepmother would not allow it. That is, unless I sat at a table with them on the call. Fast forward to the summer of my freshman year, and we went to visit my dad's side of the family. On the last night, my aunt and uncle who lived next door asked if I could stay the night with my cousins. My stepmother wanted her youngest daughter to be included, but they declined because my stepsister was a thief. A fight ensued in the front yard that night, resulting in physical altercations. My stepmother shoved my 74-year-old papa on the ground, and he had a hip replacement in the 90s and already had a stiff walk. I was utterly terrified and distraught. As the chaos ensued, I packed my belongings because they said that we were leaving. I vowed then that this would be the last straw, and I would never forgive them. We missed their 50th wedding anniversary because my stepmom was still upset over what his family did to her that night. The next spring, my papa had a stroke, and it was never the same. The man that helped raise me during his son's shortcomings didn't even remember my name. He then passed away in 2014. Later, I left the house when I was 18 to go to college, and that's where I met my husband. He has been my rock and helped when my dad throws fits in the last few years when he doesn't get his way. He has showed me nothing but unconditional love and support, and is the father to our child mine could never muster to be. I go no contact with my dad every couple of years because of his behavior. There is an old saying that time heals all wounds, but I don't believe that to always be true. I maintained a relationship with my paternal grandmother all the way up until her passing in December. She was a cheeky one who left notes for us to find after her passing. This woman never forgot a thing when she felt slighted. They always reflected in her will. So I inherited the house that had been deed to me since 2001. My dad knew they would give it to me, but I honestly think he thought he had a chance of fighting me for it. Since 2012, he and my stepmother have been living in an RV that is now starting to fall apart. He is retired military and has no savings. Right after the funeral, he stashed his belongings in closets. I discovered this after I changed the locks and added cameras, as I live out of state and wanted security for the home before I sell my home and move into my childhood home. I put his stuff and what was owed to him in storage, and my uncle gave him the keys. After learning this, he has been furious. My step-siblings keep reaching out, telling me that I'm heartless for keeping him out of his parents' house. He called crying, and I coldly told him that if they wanted him to have it, they would have left it specifically for him. I also told him he should have treated the parents better when they were alive. I have the deed in my hands, and there is nothing left for him to do about it. The estate is almost settled, and what land he does get will also have my name on the deed. I would rather share my childhood home with my daughter and all the whimsical things it had to offer, even if my dad ends up homeless. Good for you for putting your foot down. Your dad and stepmother sound absolutely awful, and the way they treated you growing up was so unacceptable. And you know what? If I was in your shoes, I would have done the same thing. I absolutely would have denied him having that house, and I would have moved in there, since obviously you have memories there that you were never even allowed to have at your father's house. So truly, it looks like karma definitely came around, because his awful actions finally are having consequences. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some vibey music to put on in the background, check out easymode. If you like Am I the Jerk, check out Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked in the description.